Welcome to our program on immigration and you. I am your immigration attorney, Michael Falwani, and once again, we have with us attorney David Nachman, my partner.
Thank you so much, Michael. Always
David,
a pleasure to be here
today's
with you.
program, we have small little topics which are very important.
Okay.
The topics are small,
Sometimes-
the issues are long.
Exactly.
So here it is. Let's start
Small-
with
small
one repeated
issues.
question coming, or problem I see many cases
Mm-hmm.
is about marriages, divorces, and adoptions. The legality of it and the bona fides of that.
Okay.
So there are two different things. Legal means it is done legally according to the local law of that country,
Mm-hmm.
and bona fides is real or is fraud.
Okay.
So what happens in India? Basically, we have done this many times, these programs, but still we continue to see all this. That's why we are repeating again and again. When people get married in India, two ways to do it: religious marriage, and then register it, or straight away going to the court and go to the court marriage. The marriage under the religious marriage is called under the Indian Marriage Act, right?
Correct.
And the other one is Special Marriage Act, which is like a civil marriage, like the one we do in the US, go to the judge and I do and all that. But there's a 30-day notice to be given in those marriages. Now, most of the marriages, Hindu marriages or Hindus, even Muslims, they are done religious marriages. And after the performance of the marriage, they register the marriage. Now, what has been happening is that they do a religious marriage, and then they have the pictures of the marriage, the invitation card, we call Kankotri, everything is there. Then they go and register, the right thing to do. Some people want to jump the line. They say, okay, we want to get married next year. But let us this year when I visit India, we go and just register in advance.
Right.
So they go to the registrar office, fill up the form. We got married like yesterday, and the Pandit's name is on that also. So registrar doesn't know. He gives the papers and they register and issue the marriage certificate. After the marriage certificate, they file a I-130 petition. Petition gets approved.
Right.
They go for the interview. The girl or the boy, whoever is applying, goes for the interview. The American consuls in every marriage case show me the pictures. We call vidhi. Vidhi is a ceremony going around the fire, 5 times, 7 times. Now, the person may have a fake, and the consuls are very smart. They very quickly from the interview get it. Or they never had it. They say, oh, just exchange the flowers. Oh, they just the mantras only. You didn't have the feras. Oh, the photographer didn't take those pictures. Council doesn't believe that. Those kind of cases they will put under investigation. And they find out that they committed, this is a fraud. In a way, it is a fraud, isn't it? They lied
That's right.
to the registrar of marriages also, and they lied to the immigration by filing that I-130 petition.
Right.
So then that petition is revoked, and they keep crying and come to you and me into what to do now. So what we recommend them that marriage was not valid. So now what you have to do is to get a proper marriage certificate.
Correct.
But why? Because they already got marriage also. By the way, the second year, after a year, they had a religious ceremony much after that.
Right.
And they have the pictures and the real, so they can really file a new I-130 petition with the real date of marriage as per the religious and get a new certificate.
Correct.
That takes time though, but that's a penalty they need to pay. Now, same thing with the divorces. Divorces in India have to be from a court of law. Now, there is a provision, small provision in the Hindu Marriage Act, in the Indian Marriage Act, Hindu Marriage Act, is that there is a custom and practice, in particular some kind of communities. There they can probably have a mutual divorce on a stamp paper, and that may be considered valid. But my experience is the American consuls always give a very hard time. They say, we don't know, you have to prove custom, you have to prove practice, you go to the court now and all that. So therefore, it's a good advice that a divorce must be granted by a court of law. So that's very, very important. Adoption is a whole different ball game.
Exactly.
But the only thing I can tell you about the adoption within the family, the requirement is 2 years of physical residence together with the child and 2 years of legal residence. So that's one of the main requirements. People are having problems. If they are here citizens, green card holders, and they adopted but never lived together, I tell them you have to go back, one of you two, and live for 2 years, and then only we can file.
Exactly.
So this is another. Now, I'm going to give you a very little tough issue now to deal with.
Okay.
We file the petitions, get approved, everything then is fine, and they think that Mr. Nachman said, no problem, here's the approval H-1B, go to India and you get a stamp done. But the consul says, after the interview, gives a letter which says 221G.
Correct. Administrative processing.
That's it.
Right.
Nothing more.
Right.
Now, client is asking you, but why, but why, but why, but what do you need? What is 221G?
Obviously, the consulate
Your
has. Yeah. Obviously, the consulate has some kind of question that lies behind something that the petitioner and
By
the
the way,
applicant
sometimes the consul will say, give me these documents and all. That's understandable.
Right.
That's okay. It's easy to give them what they want. But still, even after that, they keep it pending.
That's right.
And whenever you call them or we call them or they send a paper, they say still pending.
Well, sometimes it's still pending, or oftentimes we'll get a response like they'll say we're investigating the case, or what they'll do is they'll say additional information is required. It really depends upon why the case is pending, and that's really what our office seeks to do to assist our clients at the U.S. consulate offices abroad. We are trying to dig below that piece of paper and try to figure out, of course, the consulate doesn't want to give the information to the individuals, so we try to dig below that, and the service that we're able to provide is to show the client or to tell the client what the reasoning is. And oftentimes we can get it from the client because the client will explain what exactly transpired at the consulate. A lot of times our clients are extremely detailed about
So
in
one
the narrative.
factor, that's very good.
So,
I always ask them same thing. Give us detailed
Narrative.
information of the interview.
Correct.
What happened in the interview and what documents they needed and what you gave.
right, because based on our experience, we can deduce what exactly transpired such that it maybe led an officer to understand, why they were giving the 221G. So, for example, when individuals go to the U.S. consulate and let's say they have a particular scientific background, oftentimes I'm able to figure out if they're trying to get the H-1B that it's probably TAL, technical alert list, so we can figure out that that's the reason for the 221G. When it's a marriage case, it's a little more difficult because it could be anything. It could be the bona fides of the marriage. It could be something that happened in the past. Oftentimes, there may be another. It could be that the consulate has information about an individual with the same name and has mixed them up, and they just have to make sure that the birth date doesn't coordinate to the other individual with
There's
that
an
same
alert
name.
and the computer sees
Yeah,
that
exactly.
there's the security issue.
Right.
That they cannot do anything. They have that matter they have to refer back to the Department of State or the concerned agency to clear that name. And the
Right.
consul cannot do anything. He cannot issue until that is done.
That's right.
And sometimes they take a long time also.
Right, and our job as legal counsel, I think, is to try to get to the bottom of the reason why the administrative processing has been issued and to try to help the consulate understand that the case needs to be moved quickly. Now, one of the things that we found, at least in terms of strategy, is to get back to the consulate as quickly as you possibly can. Because what ends up happening is if you don't address the issues quickly, then unfortunately it probably falls to the bottom of the pile. So getting
Not only that, bottom of the pile, many times they have reason that this may be a fraud, anything. They simply send the petition approved back to the Immigration Service to review
That's
it
right.
for revocation.
That's exactly right.
After that, when you pursue, they say, sorry, we don't have the petition. It's already gone to the immigration office. They are the ones who are going to send you notice of intention to revoke. And
Exactly.
you deal with it, with the immigration. No more, we cannot do anything on that.
Exactly, and that's one of the reasons why if you're able to deal with the 221G issue before it ends up getting back to the USCIS,
Right.
then there's an opportunity to be able to deal directly at post with that issue. So
Exactly.
you skip the step of it going back to the USCIS. So what we try to do is head it off at the pass.
No, see, what we also do is to go deeper. Go to the labor certification, LCA that was filed. We go to the I-129 petition documents, what was submitted. Sometimes by talking to the client and looking at the background of the employer or his own employer in terms of education, a degree, some issue, we get some kind of feeling that what may be the possible problem.
Exactly.
So that's...
Well, that comes through experience.
unfortunately, it's a little complex. People say, okay, I'm coming to you, I'll give you the case and you call tomorrow. Can you let me tomorrow? Can you call the consul and tell me what's the problem? It doesn't work
Yeah.
that way.
No, it
it
doesn't. We can't pick up the telephone and call the consulate
But even if you
office.
reach the
It's not
consul,
way
will
it
say,
works.
send me the bill, send an email, send me information, I can review it. And they don't want to talk more than what they need to. They say, listen, ultimately you are going to get the information from immigration. If we return back, you will get it ultimately. Or when? In the meantime,
Right.
it takes 1 year, 2 years or more.
Exactly.
So, as I said, it is very helpful to many people because at least we are able to talk. We are able to, I mean, I have State Department cables where they say the American consul should give specific information, if not the whole detail. For example, they will say they are looking into the inquiring the marriage of the case, or they will trying to get the determination based upon the employer. Some
Right.
2-3 words would give us a little clue what's going on here.
Exactly. Well, it's the reason, Michael, why you and I every year go to the U.S. consulate offices in India. We visit the U.S. consulate office in New Delhi, in Chennai, in Hyderabad, and also in Mumbai. And the reason why is because what we do is we bring our problem cases, many of which are 221G issues, to the attention of the consular officers, and we say to them, you know, we're having a problem with this case. How do you suggest that we deal with it? And so what we do is we try to get them to understand the problems that we're seeing in the field, not just from one client, but from groups of clients, and for them to understand the hardships that our clients are going through by having to wait these long extended periods of time for their cases to be kicked back from the U.S. consulate to the USCIS. So we help them to understand that they can work with us to overcome these issues without kicking them back, of course, to USCIS.
And people say, can I go to a senator, can I go to a congressman?
Which is always an option.
It's an option, but reality what happens is this. Most of the time, if it is just a delay, I mean, no issues at all, probably helps to see the consul will see the file is there. For some reason, no action has been taken and they take it. But if they are still continuing the investigation or determination or pending the case for verification, they will simply send a letter to the senator, congressman, thank you very much.
Exactly.
Unfortunately, we are still working on it, and as soon as it is completed, we'll advise you and the client and all that. If we can do anything else for you, please let us know. So a polite letter, but says nothing.
But I think that the most important thing for our clients to understand and for individuals who are watching this program is that everything is handled on a case-by-case basis. And so you might think that your case is under administrative processing and it is just the same as your friend's case that just cleared a week ago, and yours is the same. It's not. I mean, there are reasons that the U.S. Department of State has what's called technical alert list. They have Visa Donkey, they have Visa Mantis, they have all these special reports that they have to go back and get depending upon the level of security or the issue. So again, it's a case-by-case basis. Your case is not like everyone else's. So if you're seeking guidance,
and the difference
just be sure you
between
keep
going
that
to
in mind.
senators, congressmen, and to the good law firm, what's the difference? The difference is this. They are getting a status of the case. All that they can tell them, senator, congressman say, why are you spending? It's spending because of this reason. Why? But we know possibly this is pending because of this reason. So we give them the documents, we give them the information. We need to satisfy the American consul that this is a genuine case, bona fide case, that this should be completed. And once they have the paperwork, document, arguments, they have to move. We are helping, assisting in a way. We are helping the American consul to make the determination.
Facilitating.
Congressman, senator can only ask a status question, and they'll say this is the status. That's the difference. What do you say?
Exactly. Well, and then, of course, if there's an issue with regard to an adverse determination that's made under the law, there still is a process that we use at the U.S. Department of State called LegalNet, where lawyers have access to a special program where what we can do is we can send the question, if it's a legal question, to LegalNet, and we can hopefully advance something that may have been inadvertently or wrongly determined at the U.S. consulate.
I'll tell you an example. Many years ago, when the CSPA, Child Status Protection case, became the law, and there was a case where the child was 29 years old. And what had happened in this case, the immigration had taken about 8 or 9 years because of the back and forth RFEs and all that. So when I sent the information to the consul that CSP qualifies, minus the 9 years from 29, it will be 20. And consul at the new one, he said, how can that be? How can that be? He sent the case back to the Department of State. And I sent my letter to the Department, this is the law, and you please give an advisory opinion. And they immediately saw that I was right, so they told the consul that that's correct, this is the law, you must read that law. And this. So
Exactly.
the legal issues, not on the factual issues. A person gets denied on a 214B, the consul didn't believe that he's going to come back or not. The Department of State will not interfere in that kind of case. Only when there's a legal
issue, correct.
that we can advise the Department of
Right.
what is it? What there's a Department of State is the legal advisory opinion division. There are 15 or 20 lawyers.
Correct.
So not just India, all over the world. Any American consul has a problem or a legal issue, they refer to
go
them,
to.
and they will advise like they are their lawyers in a way.
Exactly.
Lawyers, they give the
Michael, we're
opinion.
running out of time, so I just want to, I think we need to wrap up for today. But I want to thank you very much. It's excellent information we've given to all our viewers about the LegalNet and about the administrative process.
And I got a whole list of fraud and waivers and all that, a very important subject.
Next
we'll deal
program,
in the next
right?
programs.
Excellent.
And thank you very much for being on the program.
Thank you so much,
and
Michael.
Thank all of you for watching the program. Please keep watching us every Saturday and Sunday at 11:45 a.m. in the morning. Thank you very much and goodbye.